It's been 22 years to the day when 9/11 happened, and I'm asking for you to leave a comment and let me know what you remember from that day. It's been 22 years since the attacks that happened on 9/11. Do you remember where you were? Do you remember what you were doing? Do you remember who you were with? How about remembering how you felt when you realized what was really happening in New York?
Whom later were revealed as Mossad assets.
Several other men were detained after a van full of explosives. They were not Al-Qaeda, but they were detained.
3 guys on top of the van, and I could see.
There was a group of Israelis.
I'm going to share my memories from that morning, and I encourage you to share your memories in the comment section. So let's continue. I was 20 years old on September 11th, 2001. It's kind of hard to believe that I've lived more than half of my life since the 9/11 tragedy. The first reports of the terror attacks on the United States started to hit the airwaves just before 8 o'clock, and that's Central Time, 8 a.m. Central Time. I was in New Orleans, or Greater New Orleans at the time. I had to wake up early that morning to pick up a customer. He lived about 45 minutes away. At that time, I was driving for my father's non-medical emergency transportation business. By the time the news was breaking about the attacks, I was already on the road and was maybe 10, 15 minutes away from picking up my first customer for the day. I can still remember stopping at a convenience store for a can of chewing tobacco and probably some coffee. I wasn't a regular user of chewing tobacco, but this particular customer I was picking up, he liked to dip. So I figured I'd enjoy a chew along with him. And besides the drive, and I wouldn't bring him to doctor's appointments, I would bring him to a big building in Metairie, Louisiana, right off the Causeway Bridge you may have heard of, to see his attorneys. So that drive was about 2 hours long there, 2 hours long back. So the nicotine buzz and spitting in a old Gatorade bottle kind of helped pass the time. Plus, my passenger's spit cup seemed a little less gross and stinky if I was packing a lip myself. So I just started hearing about the first plane crashing into the World Trade Center when I had pulled up to his house, to that passenger's house, to pick him up. He took a while to come out, and I kind of had a hunch why. I figured he was watching the news. Surely enough, he was watching the news. He'd seen the visuals with the first tower. But the only thing, I'd only been hearing it on the radio, the reports given on the radio. So we proceeded, and for the next couple of hours, it was kind of surreal. We were locked into WWL 870 AM in New Orleans. Pretty big radio station for the entire drive. I don't remember feeling scared, but I do remember being confused. I was young. I was a young adult. I was 20 at that point, but I can't say I paid much attention to politics or world events at that time. I was kind of just a city young, kind of degenerate, going out to clubs, 20-year-old guy. I wasn't focused on the world around me. I do remember my passenger. He was anxious. He was getting angry. If I had to guess, he was in his late mid 50s maybe. And he was a pretty well-established guy, real smart guy. He had gotten injured on a job. Can't remember what happened, but usually the people I picked up were pretty bad off. He had been on the road to recovery, and now he was just going through all the litigation. But I remember he was just angry. He was coming up with just all his own assumptions about what was happening, who was doing this to us. He was blaming everyone and everything that wasn't America or American. And I heard lots of things about He had his Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Middle Eastern, Israel, everything. He was saying everything. And with him being an older guy, me still kind of feeling like a kid, I'm only 2 years removed from high school. Don't have a lot of world knowledge. Everything that he was saying, he was like like my dad's age, or a little bit older than my dad at the time. And, what he was saying was gospel to me. So he was making me more nervous than just trying to keep hearing the updates and let it all settle in. But also, as time progressed, things kept getting worse and worse with 9/11. So it's all building. People are scared everywhere I stop at. I had to kill like an hour and a half while he was at his meeting with his attorney. I usually killed time back then we had a lot of bookstores, we had arcades, lots of places to just kill time at. And I can remember everyone just glued to the TV talking about it. What's happening? People are scared. I remember some people crying. It was wild. But then picking him up and taking that 2-hour ride back to his home. He lived somewhere in Mississippi. I can't remember where. Hattiesburg. I'm not sure. He had a cool new house he had just built, but I digress. He was making me more nervous than anything. But being so far away from it, everything isolated, basically to, what was it, the Capitol for an ending part of it, and everything in New York. Before, if memory serves, I wasn't too scared because it just really felt so far away. And I can say 22 years later, I've done some serious research, and I would really stress to you, do some research on it. Just the first thing you hear, whatever Google tells you on a search result, YouTube videos, results, probably not the whole story for everything. And I'll just kind of leave that there, but I'm really looking forward to see if anyone has any comments where you'd just like to share what it felt like 22 years ago for one of the biggest events, catastrophes to ever happen in America, on American soil, and everything, the lives lost, the time wasted, the destruction, the money wasted, the finances, the infighting in American politics, the warmongering that went on since. So share whatever you'd like in those comments. I'd be curious to read it, and I'm sure others will too. My name's Ryan for Silly Reviews, and I'd recommend taking a moment for everyone over all these years tied to this event. People in the building, on the planes, rescue workers who 15 years later may have passed early from symptoms of being at ground zero, breathing all that in, what it did to them emotionally as well as physically. Maybe just take a moment, remember all those people, and go ahead, live life to the fullest. And I appreciate you spending a little time here, and I hope to see you back. Silly Reviews, signing off.